In this video, we're going to look at logical, lookup, and financial functions. So the frequently used three function categories are the logical, lookup, and lookup and reference, and financial functions. Okay, so the logical functions test the logic of a situation and then return a particular result. The lookup and reference functions are useful when you need to look up a value in a list to identify the applicable value. Okay, so we'll take a look at an example for this. Financial functions are useful to anyone who plans to take out a loan or invest money or budget money, things like that. Okay, so determining results with the if function. So the if function has three arguments. Number one, a condition that is tested to determine whether it's true or false. Number two, the resulting value if a condition is true. And then the resulting value if a condition is false. Okay, so let's go test this out. Oops, there you go. So the if function. So I'm just going to go here and clear contents here again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is here I'm going to say pass or fail. Okay. So here I'm going to go equals if, and then click on this here. So the logical test. Now what is the logical test? So the logical test is if the final score is more than 60, okay, more than 60, and this 60 should be an absolute value, right? Okay, so how do I make that into an absolute value? I can go in here and manually type in the dollar signs in front of A and in front of 4, or I can go to function and press F4. There we go, making that into an absolute reference very quickly. Okay, so that's my logical test. If E3 is going to be more than 60, and then so the value of true is going to be pass, and the value of false, if it's not more than 60, then is going to be fail. Okay. Now I have quotations around my text here because it's a text. If you want it to be a numerical value like 1 and 0, then you don't need the quotation marks around it. So there we go. I'm going to close my bracket and go like so. So it's pass. I'm going to click and drag this all the way down. And yeah, yay, everybody passed. Okay. So next I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here. So you can also, you can use text within the formula. So you have to use quotation marks for text. You can also put numerical value. If you have a numerical value, then you don't have to put the quotation marks in. All right, so here are different comparison operators. Okay, so maybe I should have entered, greater than or equals to, because if it's still equals to, they still pass. Okay, so it should be, actually should be greater than or equals to, right? That should really be the, so if somebody got 60, they would still pass. All right, so these are the different common comparison operators. You have equals, not equals to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and greater or equal to. Right, so the next thing we're going to look at is, there we go. So the next thing we're going to look at is using lookup functions. So you can use lookup and reference functions to quickly find data associated with a specific with a specified value. Okay, so for example, if your professor uses your average to look up the letter grade to assign something like B+ or something like that. But let's go to our example and see how we can use the lookup function. Okay. Oh, but before we use the lookup function, let's look at the VLOOKUP first. All right. So use the VLOOKUP to search for exact matches for the nearest value that is less than or equals to the search value. such as assigning a B grade for a class average between 80 and 89. So the VLOOKUP function has the following 3 required arguments and 1 optional argument. The optional argument is a range lookup. So the VLOOKUP function has the 3 required, which is lookup value, table array, and column index number. Okay, so let's go make sense of that. All right, so in here, I'm going to go equals VLOOKUP. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to look up, let's see. So I'm going to look up, let's say, Rob's. Oh, sorry, I'm on this column, so I should look up John's value here. Okay, I'm going to look up John's final score here. And I'm going to use the table array, but only after I enter a comma. So I want to look up John's final score and determine what letter grade it should be. Okay. So the table array is here. There we go. And then I'm going to have a comma there. And then the column index number. So it is not the first one, but the second one, right? So 2. And then I'm going to close that and press enter. So it's a B. Okay. Oh, and that doesn't work. And the reason is because I forgot to do an absolute value. So which one should be the absolute value? This one here. This whole table array should be absolute value. And I can go in and manually add a number sign to everything, but I'm going to do it the quick way and use the F4 key. Here we go. And go over here. The F4 key, because that array there, that table array there should not ever change, right? Always using that as a guidance to see, you know, this is a grading scale, which is my table array. I'm using this is my letter grade here, right? So I'm using this VLOOKUP to determine what letter grade did John get based on his final score, okay? So again, I looked up his final score, and then I looked up the array, this table here. And then what is this number 2 here? It means, you know, the second column, not the first one, right? Okay, there we go. And I'm going to click and drag that. And here we have it. All right, so let's move on. And I just wanted to talk about, there we go. So here in your textbook, you would have this nice little figure here that shows you what each of the arguments are. So here it's the final score to look up here, and this is the table array range, which is the grading scale. And over here is the second column within the table to return the letter grade. So that's what that number 2 is there for. Note that there's also a H lookup function. The other one's a V lookup, which is vertical lookup. Lookup functions are not just limited to the vertical tables. You can also look up horizontal tables. There are cases where a horizontal table is a better way to organize and arrange your data. So, so it works just like the V lookup function, except that it's horizontal. So you use the H lookup function instead. Right, so that will be it for this video. In the next video, we will look at the PMT function.